Hi, and welcome to Gravity Clamp, where we focus on AI to help you with your marketing and business needs. And this week, I want to talk about generative AI. Now, we hear a lot about generative AI and the idea that we can go out and create our own content. And everyone's talking about, let's go create our own pictures and images, and we can put things on our website. And it's great, but then again, what are the tools and how do we do what we're trying to do? So for this video, I want to share with you some of the ways that I approach generative AI creation of images. Now let's start to kind of talk about the reality of what we're dealing with here. You know, for many years, if I wanted an image that I might use, if I was lucky, I might go find some sort of affordable stock footage that I could grab and put in. Is it what I want? Close, right? We could do that. In other cases, I might go to a place like Getty Images, and they'd be willing to sell me access to the photo I need for, you know, the paltry sum of like $600. Yeah, if you're putting together a PowerPoint presentation with lots and lots of pictures, that gets expensive pretty quickly. And while there's still a lot of great resources for going out and finding content that you can use, how nice is it to have the option of being able to make your own content when you need it? And this means you may have something that's kind of weird that nobody's really thinking about, and you could say, how can I create that using these different tools? So today I want to do a bit of a shootout, and I want to talk about 3 of the different platforms that I've used for creating graphical content. And we're going to talk about working with the original gangster here, Stable Diffusion, a little bit through an interface, if you will, that we call Night Cafe. We're going to talk about using ChatGPT and being able to use Dalle-3, which is built in. And then we're going to talk about really my general go-to, which is going to be Midjourney. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each one as we jump into these. To start things off, let's go look at Stable Diffusion and what it can bring to the table. Now, as I mentioned, Stable Diffusion is really the OG when it comes to a lot of the things we're seeing with the algorithms that allow us to do generative AI graphical constructions. And I first jumped into this about 2 years ago. And to be totally honest with you, what's fascinating to me is originally Stable Diffusion was really almost like a chemistry set where you'd go like, all right, let me adjust this a little bit and tweak this. Let me add a number here. And it looks something like this. And it was one of the kind of thing where you can come in and say, okay, let me adjust this and tweak this. But you had no real idea what was going to come of your work until you generated something. And back in the day, the stuff we created, some of it was a little weird. Now, I joined Night Cafe for the first time in April of 2022, and my first piece was right here. It was called Child Across the Sky. It was a nod to one of my favorite Jonathan Carroll novels. And it was just, throwing in a random title, seeing what kind of weirdness would come out. And I got some weirdness. And then jumping in and saying, hey, what happens if I ask you to create a bucket of green and purple objects and, different types of filters? So it was almost like using Photoshop in the early days, like, let me apply this filter, let me try this different prompt. And the truth of the matter is some weird stuff came out of it. I was working with babies and clowns and spiders. Yeah. And I'll show you what Night Cafe allows you to do. But the point is that, you can almost see the evolution of the technology as you scroll through the creations. This was very early on, again, 2 years ago. And over time, of course, as the algorithms have gotten a lot better in creating content, the ability to go in and say, hey, I'm going to create something that looks like something. By the way, if you do clowns, babies, and spiders playing together using the horror filter in Night Cafe, you get some incredibly poor things to look at before you go to bed. And let me show you a little bit about what that looks like. So if I come up here into Night Cafe, one of the things that I can do is I can set some parameters on what I want to be able to see. And let me say I'm going to go create something brand new. Over here on the left-hand side, there's some standard things. And again, you don't have to know an awful lot. We're using there's only one model available today, which is SDXL1. And then you can put, of course, your text prompt. And let me just put in something like, a raccoon riding a skateboard. How about that? Now, we're not going to go too deep into this. But what's cool about working with Night Cafe, which is really a framework that runs, that includes Stable Diffusion. So the thing of Stable Diffusion is really a technology that sits on a server, and you can tap into it and draw from it and add to it and draw from it. And that's really what the Night Cafe interface allows you to do. So some of these interesting presets are great. And what they've done is they've gone and basically tweaked that panel that I was showing you and said, all right, set these parameters here, and we're going to get a similar look and feel. And a lot of it has to do with mood and lighting and color and structure like that. So you want cinematic lighting or realistic anime, etc. And some of the things that are kind of fun down here, again, if you're trying to do black and white portrait, you can kind of home in on that kind of thing. Here's the sinister filter. Down here, the horror filter, which I was talking about. Go ahead, throw babies and clowns and spiders in there and see what kind of fun you get. If you want to do something that's a little more cubist, yeah, you have an option there. So some of these are really kind of fun. I'm going to go with just kind of a cinematic view. We'll do that for our current thing. And down here it says, how many images do you want to generate? And by the way, Night Cafe works on kind of a points balance. How many different credits that you have. I have 181.5 credits available to me. If I generate this single image, it's going to use a single credit. If I wanted to perhaps get 4 variations on my raccoon riding a skateboard theme, I could put it in here. And of course, there are more settings if I want to be able to determine, what I want the resolution to be like and how long and what my aspect ratio is, etc. Let's say we're going to go with 16:9 for what we're doing here. Okay. By the way, it's going to cost me a little bit more, 4 credits to have this. So again, if you have enough credits, and the credits are not that incredibly expensive to buy, but this is how they make their money. And once I'm done, let's click on create. And again, it's going to take my prompt, which is incredibly simple. I could be much more involved in this prompt and really think about what I want, but I'm just starting to think again, all right, let's just use something simple here that we can look at. And it has generated for me 4 images of a raccoon riding a skateboard. Now, there's not a lot of differentiation between these. They're all relatively similar and a very similar look and feel, but it gives me that starting point. And again, one of the things that's nice about this is that I could come in here, and if I want to be able to select one of these, all right, let's say I want to be able to use this one here, I can come in here and I might be able to drill down a little bit further, and I can download this, or maybe I can enhance it if I want to change it. Of course, one of the things I don't love about the Night Cafe model is that there's a lot of just, hey, you can spend a little bit more on this and have this feature and all that. I get the upsell. I'm just not a huge fan of kind of the nickel and diming of it. I'd like to just pay you a price, then go in and play around and not have to constantly think about how much I'm spending to create things. Okay. But anyway, the bottom line is that by coming in here, we get something that looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about really what we get in exchange for what we put into it. And while I like Night Cafe as a quick and dirty, it doesn't give me the granularity of going and saying, how do I want to change that? So let's talk a little bit about something that will allow us to do that. And I want to talk a little bit about working with ChatGPT, and in this case, working with Dalle-3. Now, if you spend any time at all working within ChatGPT, ChatGPT 4 in particular, this is going to look very familiar to you. And one of the things I can come in here is I can put in and say, I want you to write me something, but I can also come in here and say, I would like you to generate an image for me. And the thing I love about working with ChatGPT is that it allows me to almost work with an assistant. So I can say to my assistant, hey, show me a picture of this. And the assistant can create that, and I can say, can you change that? How about it move that around? And so it gives us a lot of movement and a lot of change and a lot of opportunities. Let's try our prompt again. A raccoon riding a skateboard. Now again, this is going to be incredibly simple. But if I enter this, first of all, it's going to know inherently when I do this that I'm looking to create an image. And so it's going to say, you want to open up Dalle-3 as opposed to GPT and generate some sort of text. So right now it's going into this process and it's going to create me an image that hopefully will meet my needs. And there we go. Not surprisingly, here's the whimsical scene of a raccoon riding a skateboard that you asked for. Now, this may be fine. This may be exactly what I want. It's certainly whimsical. It's certainly a raccoon riding a skateboard. But what I can come in here and say, can I make a change here? Can we make the background more like a city? And by the way, I'm using very, very human language here, right? I'm kind of asking my colleague, my assistant here, if we could do this. And so I'm going to pop that into my prompt and see what it does as a result. Now, it is creating a brand new image, but it's creating a fully brand new image. So while I may have liked the raccoon before with kind of his posture and how he was on the skateboard, by asking it to change the environment, it's changed the picture as well. Now, this may suit my needs. And one of the things about working with generative AI that I have found is that there's a lot of iterations. You come in and you say, okay, let me start here. Not really. And then we kind of work our way toward it if we want to. Now, I could come in here and also play around and say, can you use the first image and make it so the raccoon is wearing a hat. Okay. Now, again, I'm getting pretty granular and into the weeds when I'm asking it to go back and reference something that we've already worked with. And the nice thing, again, about working with ChatGPT is it really is like working with an assistant who is smart enough to go, oh, the first image, the one we created before, yeah, I have it right here. Let's see what it comes up with. And there we are. So it's gone back to the original view, right? So we're back in our neighborhood here. And the raccoon is indeed wearing a hat. So I like this. This makes it so easy for, anybody to come in and say, how can we change that? How can we make this work and enhance it in some way? Now, I will be honest. One of the things that I find disappointing about working with Dalle-3 is that almost everything kind of takes on this cartoony feel that we have here. It's kind of like it's stuck with that. And one of the challenges, let's say, a group of people in an elevator. I want to, if I want to be able to home in on people's faces, I find that Dalle-3, everyone looks a little comical. It doesn't have that realism that you might want in certain cases where it looks photorealistic. And that may be fine if that's what you're looking for. Let's see what it comes up with here. All right, and here it is. And again, I could probably say, let's get a close-up of the faces. But again, it's a lot of people behaving like they're in an elevator, all ignoring one another. But they are kind of weirdly pointed in different directions. Things are a little odd here. So there are some cool aspects of what this can do. But again, one of the things about the people is they look like they're drawn, at least to me, as opposed to being photorealistic. So I love a lot of what GPT, in this case what Dalle-3 can bring to the table. And the idea of doing iterative work and adjusting things is super cool. But if I'm going out and I'm saying, I really want to create something that looks like the thing I'm trying to make, I have the tendency to go toward Midjourney. Now, one of the things to understand about Midjourney is actually, again, as a technology, think of it almost as a server that sits somewhere. And in order for us to use Midjourney, we need an interface. We need a way of sending our request to the server and getting the response back from the server. And the way Midjourney works is it uses Discord. Now, Discord is an interface. It actually was originally designed as a tool to allow gamers to have a back channel where they could have conversations with one another while in the middle of gameplay. So it really is an interface that allows you to send messages and receive messages. And so it's been used by a lot of different organizations and companies for that kind of purpose. And so with Midjourney, there's something called the Midjourney bot, and I can come in here and I can ask my request. Now, the challenging thing about working in Midjourney is that when I make a request, it kind of has to be encoded in a certain way. For example, to start with, I have to put a /, and then I have to choose from my menu what I'm trying to do. And again, most of the time what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to imagine, I'm trying to create an image of some sort. And so once I do this, it says, all right, what would you like your prompt to be? Now, in this case, I might say raccoon riding a skateboard, right? Now, if I come in and just do just that, I may get what I'm looking for. Now, I will say one of the things that is required when we put a prompt here in DALL-E is what is known as a stylized prompt. And we put that in with a double dash, and we can put stylized or just simply S, and then a value between 0 and 750. And what this basically means is, all right, if it's really low, let's say it's 0, I want it to be exactly like what I just put in the prompt. Try to narrow this down to almost as precise as you can. And if I open it up and say, okay, 300, 400, 500, I'm giving it this permission to go a little further afield. Yeah, a raccoon riding a skateboard-esque, right? It doesn't have to be super precise. It can be a lot more generalized if that's what we want to do. I'm going to say, let's keep it relatively low. I'll put it in as 200. And let's see what we can do with this. Now, what's happening is it's sending the information off to the Midjourney servers, and Midjourney is creating iterative content and sending it back to me. And if I want, I can now see from the 4 different images that I have here, kind of what's going on. And again, the same prompt of a raccoon riding a skateboard, but this time in Midjourney, it gives a kind of a different look. Now, one of the things that's also nice, and again, if you know what you're doing here, you can be a lot more descriptive. So let me jump out of here and let me try something again. Okay, so I've rewritten the prompt to read, show me a picture of a raccoon riding a skateboard in New York City. Give the raccoon a mohawk hairstyle and a green shirt. Hyper realistic. I want it to look as much like a raccoon as we can. Make it look like a photograph practically. I want some cinematic lighting. We'll make it a little moody. And then I'm setting some different parameters. For example, we talked about stylize. I'm going to give it a range of 300 so it can get a little bit away from the prompt if it wants to experiment with things. I want to change the aspect ratio of my output so I can put it in AR tag, and I want it to be a 16:9, so it's going to be wider. There's something called chaos, and I can add a little bit of kind of, again, some weirdnesses in here. I'm giving it a chaos value. And then quite literally, there's a weird value, which is --W, which is going to be 350, just out of a range of 0 to 3,000. Well, it's just going to add a couple, again, if you want something that's not going to be normal, it's going to do variations between the different 4 images it creates. So let's run that and see what results we get. Okay, and you can see we have something here. Well, we have some variations. So once again, not sure what the heck's going on. That does not look like a skateboard to me. It looks like a cinder block with two raccoons, whole bunch out there. Raccoon, not so much. Hedgehog, I'm guessing, cartoony hedgehog. There's kind of my life as a teen raccoon. Got the green shirt down. It's, I guess there's sort of a mohawk there. And here, I have no idea what's going on. So as you can see, when you adjust things and add kind of chaos and weirdness, you're going to get different results. And this is awesome if you're prototyping. If you're like, what can we do here? Let's narrow this back, and I'm going to kind of pull back on the weirdness here and see if we can hone this in a little bit more. All right, so here we are. Well, you know what? This one's going to giving a mohawk to a raccoon might be a little bit more challenging. I'm not seeing a lot of mohawk going on here, but we do have the green shirt here. Looks like we're having most of an orange jacket here, and he's shredding a guitar here. Now, again, this is really a place where we experiment and changing the language. This is less easy to use than Dalle-3 from a language standpoint, because you kind of have to go in and toe the line a little bit and follow the prompts and the kind of prompts. Now, one of the nice things about working in here again is if I do a /, one of the things I have is something that allows me to go into the help. And the help that we have available here, let me jump on in, will give me all sorts of options. If I want to know the basic commands, it will show them. There's all sorts of great help and things. And by the way, very robust community in Midjourney if it's the kind of thing you want to get involved in. Bottom line is simply, how can I create content that I can use in my content? And so, for example, let's just go back to what we have here. I'm going to use the cool raccoon. So this is going to be number 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I go back out of here, I can say, give me some variations of number 1 or variations of number 2 or number 3 or number 4. I can also say, give me kind of an output version of it. Let's just go into variations first here. And again, based upon just this number 1 with the raccoon wearing sunglasses. And let's see what it comes up with. So it's kicked out 4 variations. If I come in here, I can say, which one do I like the most? And I can say, you know what? I think number 1's going to work for me here. And now if I go back in, I can say, give me basically an output version of number 1. And there it is. Now, I'll share one other thing that's kind of cool about this. Once we've outputted a version, it also allows us to come in, and if we want to say what's happening over here on the right-hand side or on the left-hand side, we can come down and we can make this a little bit wider. I'm going to say, let's make this wide, and we'll see what's happening over here on the right-hand side where the raccoon is. And now it's done a generative fill, and it kind of balances this picture out nicely. I could do the same thing on the left-hand side, but you understand the concept here. And now let's say, in looking at this, all right, we got some slight differences, mostly the same image. We got basically different backgrounds here. I say, you know what? 2's the one I want. And I come in here, and I can now say, give me an output of 2. And if I want to now, I can say, yeah, that's the one I want to use in my presentation. If I right-click on this, I could save it to my computer and put it into a downloads folder or something and use it in my presentation, use it in my video, use it anywhere I want on my website, right? Now, not quite sure how the raccoon riding a skateboard is going to fit into your needs, but the point simply is that it gives us an opportunity to then go out and just generate what we want and to keep coming back. And I find I love these tools in the sense that instead of going out to these traditional clip art sources that I've used for years and years and years and finding, basically a bunch of people in a boardroom shaking hands, I can go make my own people doing various things. I can make it a lot more focused on the kinds of messages I want to be able to provide on my web properties, landing pages, in my ads, all that kind of stuff. And again, this is going to take some time. And the fun thing about this is actually going in and experimenting, being able to say, what happens if I do this, and seeing what the results will be. Anyway, I wanted to just, again, take a few minutes to show you how we can use these different technologies. Which one would I recommend? They're all going to provide value to you. It really is going to come down to what your needs are as a creator. Anyway, that's all I have to share with you today. If you enjoy what we've done this week, then we do this every week. Feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. We'll let you know when we drop a new video. And by the way, if you're interested in what's happening with these kinds of things, then check out this recent video that we dropped talking about how to create automatic prompts for Midjourney using GPT. Anyway, that's all I have for you for now. I'll talk to you soon.